So we have Martine
Really?
today.
And
Martine, pronouncing it in French. You're loving that. Right? It
Yeah.
brings back old memories, the old memories of being in a French city.
You know.
When was the last time you were in Montreal?
I just last year. So I go fairly often. Although I have not been yet because there was a lot of things going on, but I usually go yearly, once or twice, depending.
Because you have family here still, right?
Yeah, mom is in Quebec City, and I have family in Quebec City, and I have a bunch of friends in Montreal as well, because I went to school there and all the stuff. Mm-hmm.
Great. So your profile particularly caught my interest because you went from here where I am based, and a lot of my following and my community and my clients and everybody are based. And I've also been to the US quite a few times. I've never been to Texas, but I'd be really curious to understand a little bit, how you went from Montreal to Texas and how you decided to settle and relocate in Texas. And then the other thing that I'm sort of curious about is you're running multiple businesses, it looks like. One as a personal trainer, which I guess a lot of people could sort of understand what it is. But then your other sort of career is very unique. It's very, very niche, whatever it is that you do there. You're a mental toughness coach for specifically restaurant owners. Is that right?
Yes, at 100%. Yes, sir.
And that is really interesting because it's such a niche. I've been in business for 20 years and I've dealt with what I thought was like literally every possible type of business in every industry and every type of consultant under the sun. And then here we go, finding, a mental toughness coach. So first, I'd like to understand, again, a little bit about you, a little bit about your journey from Montreal to the States, landing in Texas and relocating and working there and stuff. What kind of piqued your interest and what made you what lured you over there, or what away from Quebec, because there's obviously a lot of reasons not to be here. Anyhow, taxes, weather, things like that. Culture clashes, maybe, to a certain extent. Anyway, so why don't we start there, and then you can tell us a little bit more about what it entails to be a mental toughness coach, how it applies specifically to restaurateurs, restaurant owners, and you could tell us a little bit about your personal training business and how that's factored into the mix as well. I don't know, are you a tough personal trainer, or do you beat your clients up while you're there at the restaurants? I don't know.
No, I don't do it. I don't do it like that,
You're rich. Oh my God, I just saw you. You're freaking, holy smokes, man. I got to train like 3 times, 4 times a week to look like that. At least, holy smokes. You've been doing something right. All right.
Something wrong.
I'll introduce myself and I'll let you take the mic.
Okay. So basically, I moved. Okay. So I was raised in Haiti, grew up in a small village part of Quebec, which called Saint-Gédéon-Beauce. That is like 2,000 people, and moved to Quebec City, high school, do all of that, and then moved to Montreal for although I did my stage in Quebec City for college. I did Sherbrooke 1 year and then University of Montreal. Ran track and field from that time all the way to now. Met my boyfriend, who's now husband, but at the time boyfriend, who's here in Texas. He was the reason why I moved. I like heat. They're warmer. They're better. So when it's like 40 degrees, I'm like, or is this minus 40? No. This is the gym. So my husband owned 2 gyms here in town, focusing on helping people lose weight, helping them with the emotion, with the physique, the emotion, and obviously the psychology of this whole weight loss, right? I worked in Old Quebec in a restaurant. It was an Italian restaurant, very good restaurant. And I always was interested in terms of how the connection, it was very yelling a lot. Not in front of the people per se, but in the background, yelling, and you have to move fast and you have to be quick. You're not able to really make mistakes, or you attempt to don't make too much mistakes, and very high pressure, a lot, right? So every summer we'll go in and do that type of job. So I started with a hostess, then bus girl, cleaning all the stuff, and then a server. Fast forward, kept that experience in my mind. And I had someone who came to us who was for losing weight, who was a restaurant owner, was in the industry of the restaurant for 20 years, whatever, how many years. But decided to kind of move away and open their own things. And they started there because the person was like, I know you help people lose weight and stuff like this, but you're so tough in regards of like in helping with the emotional stuff. Is like, have you ever thought of doing that for the restaurant industry? And I was like, no. That was around the COVID time, right? So everyone has plenty of time to think. So it got me thinking. I was like, you know what, that can be something cool. So I do track and field. Been doing track and field since 15. So nationally, internationally, name it. Bringing that aspect into the restaurant industry with the knowledge of helping people lose weight as well, like all of the emotional, be able to coach, right? And mentor, like you've mentioned, these restaurant owners or operators who are in that sphere all the time. So they're under pressure all the time. But oftentimes, what I've seen is they don't really talk about the personal things, right? So whatever it is that they go through, whatever it is that they've been doing good or not good, or it's neutral, they don't really talk to one another. They can talk about different things, obviously, but in terms of how they are handling their own pressure, they don't, right? They keep a lot of things in. And also there's certain things that you can tell your staff and your people, but there's certain things that you necessarily want to, you don't want to tell every single thing, right? So they are very lonely. So to come in, like you mentioned, in that niche area was truly a blessing. I will say blessing in disguise because it is extremely needed. It was needed during COVID, and it is needed. I don't want to say, if I don't know if I want to say more, but it is so extremely, extremely, extremely needed. I don't know if I answered your question.
You did a little bit because I now sort of have some context around it. So this business was born in COVID, right?
So COVID times, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'd be very curious if anyone who's watching this started a business particularly as a result somehow of COVID, either directly or indirectly. Some existing businesses blossomed during COVID, like IT, and anybody who did at-home services, I guess, was busier than ever. What is your first consulting session like? Where does it start? How do you determine their current level of toughness and that it's not tough enough? And then where do you go from? I mean, I don't even know where to start. Give me a little bit. Pretend I'm a restaurant owner. I own a restaurant. I'm not tough.
Of course.
I need help.
Okay. So obviously it depends from people to people, right? But a lot of time I like to sit down if I can. So if it's here in town, obviously I can sit down, or some like, Houston, the places that are not necessarily too far. If it's someone that is not here, obviously it's like via Zoom or via phone, right? But a lot of time is to have an hour and a half, a good portrait of what they're going through. So obviously if someone comes to you, they are either so overwhelmed that they're like, I don't know what the heck is going on. I'm here, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes they do it actually pretty good, right? And they have been handling a lot of things, but they may have a challenging time to delegate, for example. They may have a challenging time to prioritize certain aspect, not only in their life per se, but in a restaurant. So if they don't really know how to communicate, they can communicate, right? They usually are able to communicate. Now, how do they communicate is another thing. Are you able to say things that your team are really going to understand? Not because you're speaking another language, but literally, maybe things are too vague. If it's too vague, then you're like, okay, you do this. Then your team is kind of like a chicken like without a head, running everywhere, don't know where to start. So helping, let's say it was that person, helping that person to not necessarily telling exactly, okay, you have to say this exactly, but to help them frame differently, right? Just say, okay, this is the type of thing that you go in and you say, but you see it doesn't work. It seems like it just doesn't work. And you've been attempting to do the same thing for the last 6 months. So obviously, your people seem to be pretty good people. They don't seem to be, they're smart people. You know what I mean? They're not smart. So they're able to understand. But whatever it is that you say or how you're saying it, it's just not working. And that's one thing. And then also is to go in and see what are the expectations. What are you expecting from your team, right? Because sometimes you may expect A, B, and C, but the person that you have under you can only give you this. And not because they may be good people, but that may be their ceiling. That can literally be their ceiling. You're expecting here. They're never going to give you that, right? They're going to do their best or they can attempt their best, but you can see it's been 2 years now. It's not going to work, right? So either them or it's you. It's going to be, one of those things. So to give them that grace and that understanding that sometimes you really have to frame your wording differently so you're able to be heard. Now, with that being said, sometimes come frustration. So now you can vent to me. I'm cool. Again, obviously, I'm okay. So I actually prefer probably that you vent to me than you vent to your team and send, things that you may not want to say. But as you vent to me for whatever, if you want to vent to me for 15 minutes, at the end of your event, I'm going to say, that's great and all, but what are you going to do about that? You know what I mean? So I have A, B, C, D, E. I have this long list of different challenges that you may be experiencing with your restaurant or within your restaurant or within your team. But with all of your venting things, there's literally no solution, none. So you're just literally just venting because you're upset or you're pissed off, but you have no way to even arrange or solve the problem. And that is a problem in itself, right? So helping them to, even if it go back and really old school, like they say, and write down certain things that they want to do, whether it's more orally and, we go in and we go through that. I'm cool with that. I'm okay. I'm more old school in regards of I really strongly believe in terms of what you write, you're able to visually see it, and then you can more than likely follow it, right? Of course, there's different tools with the technology and things like this that you don't necessarily have to write down every single thing, but you do want to be able to be held accountable. And that is one of the things, because they have many hats, those restaurant owners or the operators, because they sometimes it's a 12-hour day. It can happen, right? So whether it's a big restaurant or small restaurant, they have to be seen, right? So they have to be there. There's to do administration, but sometimes they're there on the field, as they say, and they serving the people and they're doing all of these things. And then at the end of the day, they have done very little to what they were supposed to do, just because, I don't know, someone gets sick and they had to do this, and people are blowing up their phone all day long, and so, which is happening a lot of time. But a lot of time they have not learned to put boundaries, and just like normal people, obviously, but they have not learned to do boundaries. That means that people gonna call you for sometimes the smallest thing. I talked to a lady last week, and we were talking, and someone have called. It was for the silverware. Like something, I don't want to say stupid because it's not stupid, but you don't call the owner of the place for that problem. You call the managers and things like this. But she was upset, right? And I said, but the thing is, you may be upset, but there's a disconnection. Why are they calling you? Why are they not calling that person? Oh, I know why, because that person is not showing up. And you've seen that person not showing up, although a good person and a good employee, a good server, whatever it is, you've seen it, but you chose not to say anything for whatever reason. You know what I mean? So to be able to be very blunt, like I'm a very blunt person. I'm not going to go around the bush and stuff like that, right? And obviously that you cultivate that type of relationship, like on the first day, I mean, but I'm still going to go and tell you very quickly certain things that may be flat out wrong, or that is like, that definitely need improvement. And working on the vision and the goals too. So when some people have one restaurant or maybe two, like maybe this smaller business, they may want to go and see more, like a bigger goal, right? They may want to increase and have more restaurant and do all these things. But that is okay, maybe that is a good thing. And maybe that's what you want to do in 3 years and 5 years or whatever. But when you look at your current situation, it may or may not be the time. And you have to be able to have someone who is the logical voice. That's what I call it, the logical voice. I'm not emotionally involved, right? So when you're emotionally involved, sometimes you can make decisions that are great, and sometimes you can make decisions that are not the best. But when you use logic and you come in as the logical voice, you're going to go and say all the pros, all the cons, And like I said, emotionally, I'm not involved like that. So that allowed to that conversation to be more level headed to you know to a certain extent. That helps those owners and those operators.
I'm impressed that you managed to somehow turn that into a service, especially targeting restaurants, because my experience is that restaurant owners are not only busy, but they seem very like closed-minded to this type of idea. That's my impression, at least. I mean, unless there's really some sort of pain point that you can sort of pin down and be like, look, these are the 3 or 4 real problems that, would cause a restaurant owner to need this type of service. Like maybe they dealt with burnout, maybe they deal with a lot of turnover when they yell at their employees, like maybe they have anger management issues, like maybe they're too tough, maybe they're not tough. I don't know, where do you come in? Like, at what point would you enter? Like how does a contract get signed between you and your customer?
Yeah. So, and I think I touched that a little bit before, but it's very individually based, because you're gonna have some people who are literally close to be burned. If they're not already burned out, like they spent maybe the last 10 years or maybe more, and they have never had a day off. Literally, right? Like literally, they have never had a day off. They just 7 days a week, and they kind of just like, and again with the COVID, some people are still paying for the COVID effect. So they called it, well, in the industry they call it post-COVID, right? And probably in the general public as well. But people are still tied to that. A lot of restaurants are tied to it. And you see it with the big chain. Yeah, you see it with even big chain, like a Red Lobster, for example, right? Which is obviously a big chain and stuff like this. But, they went through whatever it is they went through, and they had to close a bunch of places, and they have to reconstruct all of these things. So when you go in and you work with someone who is literally emotionally damaged, it's not going to be the same approach than someone who, or at least appear to be stronger. And not that the emotionally hurt person is not strong per se. They were strong probably for a long, 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 long time, but you can literally see their fragility. Literally, like as you talk to them, you can really see, oh, there's certain way that I have to talk to them versus other ways. And now I don't want to go. I guess I don't want to go there too much, but I am going to go there. There is also this difference between if I'm talking to a woman restaurant owner versus if I'm talking to a men restaurant owner. Even that, sometimes the language that I may use may be slightly different. Not all the time, but it happens. When it's coupled, this is always super interesting, because sometimes you can have one spouse who seems to be stronger, at least seem and oftentimes are, emotionally, psychologically. And then the other spouse who may still be strong, but you can tell that that lifestyle has taken a toll on them, right? So even to go and work with that couple, because now it's a couple, it's not just one individual person. You have to still go in a certain way as well, because sometimes they both have different roles. Some of them can be more involved, the other one more laid back. Some may be more towards the operational, the other one towards the administrative. So their level of stress is literally a different level of stress. So it's to be able to manage, again, to understand their story, right, where they are coming from, and to tailor the, I want to say session, but to tailor our conversation, right, towards exactly what that individual needs. Now, if it's two people, if it's that couple, I go in and I'm going to ask straight, okay, how can I help you best? Right. And sometimes they're just going to say, and I have happened in the past, it's not even restaurant wide. It's more, I guess, behind in their own personal life. Like they are disconnected. So they work super well as husband and wife owner of this restaurant. But when they go home, like they flat out disconnected. They just, I don't know, they're just all over the place. So that's very interesting dynamic. Use that mental toughness. And even when I say mental toughness, it doesn't mean that you emotionally detached, but you are able to perform when it's time for you to perform. And if you're an owner, technically you have to perform on a daily basis or whatever, every time that you step into your restaurant, you have to be able to be there. You have to be able to show up. And some people, it's going to be a little bit different because some are more friendly or they're more social. So they're going to show up sometimes very strongly socially, but then they may be lacking in regards of how to, and that's administratively, but behind closed doors, they may be lacking in regards of how do they hold on with their own self. So it's like you put them in front of the people and they're like, okay, right, everything is working perfect. And then when it's just them, as if they given all that energy and then they have no energy left when it's me and that person talking. You know what I mean? So that's also very interesting. So there's so many different um, scenarios, right? That every time that I'm having new people, it's changing. It's like changing the game. Even if they have the same, for example, it's the burnout or the overstress. So even if they have the same pinpoint problem, the way that they are handling it is very different, very, very much so.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like you're doing quite a few different things there. You got your hands full on some psychological elements, some relationship elements, some individual, personal elements, some business environment related things, maybe employee relations, employee-employer relations. The bottom line is you found a niche in a certain market, that being restaurant owners in need of some sort of help. And you went in and you seem to have built a little niche for yourself. What would be your takeaways to anybody who has sort of not necessarily in the restaurant space or in the mental toughness industry, if there is one, but in like, let's say some other niche. So maybe somebody is, thinking about pursuing a new business venture or becoming some sort of unique type of consultant or professional that's very niche and they don't really have another model to follow, because you definitely didn't have like something to go by. It's not like you went online and you were like, oh, let's go check out what all the other mental toughness restaurant specialists are doing, right? You didn't have really that type of model that you could follow, or did you?
No, I did not. I really did not. However, to answer your question, it's you want to do your homework in terms of you do want to study people. You do want to study an industry, right? So if I decided to go in that industry, just like I did with fitness, right? You have to study. You're not, I guess I don't want to say you're not able to, I guess you can. Just jump in and just gonna, oh, okay. You want to look. And now once you're in and you're looking and you're studying and you're seeing what people are going through, now you have to start talking. And as you continue to do your research. So you're talking to so-and-so. And not necessarily to have clients per se, but you're talking to some people who've been in that industry for a longer time. Because if I'm new, but someone else has been there for 20 years, now doesn't mean that that person has been there for 20 years have all the answers. Not at all. But they know certain things. They actually know certain things. And they may know certain aspect of the business way more than me, even if it's not, I don't want to say connected, but even if it's not in the mental toughness or emotional things. Maybe for them, they are helping owners with the financial part. For example, I'm just saying an example, right? But yet they have dealt with owners. They have seen, yeah, man, they are, especially if you tend to be more depressed. They are getting overwhelmed very easily. They sometimes have challenging time to communicate with their people. So these are things that are truly happening. So by talking to people more and more, creating content, obviously, you kind of put yourself out there. Now, it's not because that you put yourself out there that everyone is coming to you. That's not at all the thing, right? You have to keep creating content and you have to go and knock. So one of the thing even right now is I'm interviewing people, some owners here in town, and like creating genuine email. And not, I don't like cold email because it's not cold. It's a very genuine email that says, you, I have studied you. I've researched who you are, and things like this. And I've done your thing because who are you? It's good to not be afraid to talk to the people that are in the industry. So being able to interview other restaurant owners to learn about their own journey, what have brought them to do what blah blah blah, what they're doing, but also the struggle, the win, all of these things help me to understand them even better. So when it's time to work with whoever. It doesn't have to be that person. It may never be that person actually. But when it's time to go in, I can apply what I'm learning to the next people. So for
Each job is like an education in itself. It's
I'm
complete.
100%.
You get feedback, and then you can use that for your next job, basically.
I'm 100% because like it's like if you put yourself in a fire. It's so cool. Well, I find it cool personally. Yeah,
Fire.
yeah, exactly right. It's a cool fire.
Well, you definitely lit it up. And you find that this is something that you tie into your other business at all of personal training? Like does the mental
Now,
toughness-
of course, if someone, because now do I see overweight restaurant owners often, but very often. I'm not gonna push it on them, right? I think that people, we in 2024 going to 2025. If you overweight, you overweight. You know it. If you look at yourself in the mirror, you know it. So I'm not even with the personal the fitness training. I don't go to people. Hey, you get a little weight now. So, but if one of them says, you know what, I want to do this, but I also want to do some tips in terms of losing weight, then obviously I will offer. But when I come to the people, I really come with the angle of emotional and psychological.
Okay. And do you have any training outside of your work on, I don't know, anything psychology, therapy, mental health related and all that?
Yeah. So my bachelor is in psychology, my master is in counseling,
Okay.
and then years of helping literally thousands of people lose a bunch of weight. So that, like, and obviously traveling with the track and field and stuff like this, and meeting people from all over the world, right, with different things. So even if it was not restaurant related, even at that time, to go in and travel, which I still do, you meet again the correlation with high level sport and the restaurant industry is so much closer than what people think. So I often use it for people because they're able to understand it clearly, you know what I mean, of how to perform and again how to show up and just to be emotionally, I don't want to say stable, to whatever it is that they're doing when they're applying themselves to their own vision.
Okay. Okay. So listen, thank you so much. If you have any closing words for anyone who's either planning on potentially entering the restaurant industry or personal training or starting a niche of their own in some sort of, field that maybe they have some raw skills, something they picked up in school, studied in school, maybe they picked it up elsewhere, and they're thinking of sort of putting maybe two pieces of a puzzle together to create a new service serving a particular niche. What closing sort of remarks or suggestions or motivation?
Don't be afraid. It's not because it has not been done that it cannot be done. So find that one thing. Doesn't have to be 5,000 things. Find that one thing that you're good at, that you know people can pay you and pay you well for it, and do it. No matter what others may say. Because you may have been in one spot, I don't know, been an accountant, understand, like, for years, and then you have idea of doing different things and kind of like scared and stuff like this. It's worth exploring other options because you only live once. Why not attempting something that can help other people? You know what I mean? And I think that's really, for me, that's really where I'm at. Like to go and continue to help others, because by helping those owners, they are better with their team. Their team serve those people who goes to the restaurant more, you know what I mean? And they give them better experiences. So it's not only, yes, I'm helping one person, for example, but it goes down the...
It's really rewarding, and it's not something typical that a parent would tell their kid to become. Like nobody tells their kid to become a mental toughness coach for restaurant owners, right? That's super unique. I'm really drawn in by your story, and it's fantastic. So thank you so much, Martine. And how would people reach you if they wanted to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so if they are in Montreal, then they will have to do a long distance call if they want to call me, 210-410-4671. But I'm on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn under Martine, and then Cloutier-Leblanc. That's my very favorite. And then Martine Cloutier-Leblanc on LinkedIn, or the phone number that I just provided. They can contact me that way.
Thank you so much, Martine. Have a great rest of your evening, and we hope to hear from you again soon.
Thank you. Bye.